You've seen him in Fantasia. You've seen him in American Gods. You've seen him referenced in video games, horror movies, and heavy metal albums across the last 50 years. But here's the thing almost nobody tells you. Historians aren't even sure he was real. Chernobog, the black god, is one of the most famous deities in Slavic mythology. He's been called the ultimate embodiment of evil, the Slavic Satan, the Lord of darkness and chaos. He appears in Western pop culture more than almost any other Slavic deity, and the actual historical evidence for his existence fits on half a page. So who, or what, is Chernobog? Is he an ancient god, a medieval invention, or something the modern world created out of fragments and fear? Today we're going to find out. Let's start with what we actually know for certain, and that begins with the name. In Old Slavic, Cherno means black, and bog means god. So Chernobog is literally the black god. Simple, direct, and immediately unsettling. Now, in the Slavic languages, black didn't just mean the color. Black meant darkness, mystery, the unknown, and, most importantly, the left side. In Slavic tradition, the left was the side of the dead, the unlucky, the dangerous. The right side was life. The left side was everything else. So when the ancient Slavs named something the black god, they weren't being subtle. This was not a god of autumn leaves or pleasant shadows. This was a god of genuine darkness, misfortune, chaos, death, and the forces that work against human life. But here's where it gets complicated. Almost everything we know, or think we know, about Chernobog comes from a single medieval source. One source, written not by a Slavic person, but by a German monk named Helmold of Bosau, sometime around 1168 AD. That's the foundation of the entire mythology. One monk, one book, written about people he considered barbarians. Helmold of Bosau was a German priest writing a chronicle called the Chronica Slavorum, the Chronicle of the Slavs. He was documenting the pagan peoples of what is now northern Germany and Poland, the Baltic Slavs, a western branch of the Slavic world that was very different from the eastern Slavs of Russia and Ukraine. In his chronicle, Helmold describes something remarkable. He writes that the Slavs he observed had a curious custom at their feasts. They would pass around a bowl of mead and speak words of blessing and cursing over it. Blessings in the name of a good god, and curses in the name of an evil one. The good god they called Belobog, the white god. The evil one they called Chernobog, the black god. That's it. That's essentially the entire primary source. One paragraph, one observation, one foreign monk who may or may not have fully understood what he was witnessing. From this single paragraph, later scholars, and then popular culture, built an entire character. The black god became a fully formed deity with domains, mythology, worshippers, and temples. Most of that is reconstruction at best, an invention at worst. This doesn't mean Chernobog wasn't real. It means we should be honest about how thin the historical ice is when we talk about it. So here's the big question scholars have been arguing about for centuries. Was Chernobog actually a god, a deity with temples, priests, and organized worship? Or was he something else? The mainstream academic view today is cautious. Most historians believe that Chernobog was probably not a fully independent deity in the way that Perun or Veles were. Instead, he may have been what's called a functional epithet, a descriptive title for the dark or negative aspect of existence, rather than a named god with his own mythology and cult. Think of it this way. In Slavic cosmology, the universe was built on balance. Light and dark, life and death, summer and winter, good fortune and bad fortune. It's entirely possible that Chernobog and Belobog, the black god and the white god, were poetic ways of describing these two sides of existence, rather than two specific deities you could pray to individually. Some researchers go further and suggest that the entire black god and white god framework was actually a Christian projection. When medieval Christian writers encountered Slavic paganism, they naturally interpreted it through their own theological lens, a world divided between God and the devil, good and evil, light and darkness. Chernobog may have been, at least partly, what Christian observers wanted to see when they looked at Slavic religion. But here's the counter-argument. The pattern of black god and white god appears not just in one source, but across multiple Slavic regions and time periods. The concept of cosmic duality, the idea that existence is fundamentally split between opposing forces, is deeply embedded in Slavic folklore, ritual, and worldview. Maybe Chernobog wasn't a god with a temple, but the principle he represented was absolutely real and absolutely central to how Slavic people understood the universe. Based on the evidence we have, fragmented, reconstructed, imperfect, what was Chernobog's domain? What did he control? Darkness and night. Not the cozy darkness of a warm room with the lights off, but the existential darkness. The kind that swallows travelers in forests, that brings predators to the edge of the village, that makes winter feel like it might never end. Misfortune and bad luck. In Slavic tradition, bad things that happened to you weren't random. They were caused by something. Illness, failed harvests, death of livestock, accidents. These were the fingerprints of dark forces at work. Chernobog was associated with all of it. Chaos and disorder. The Slavic world was deeply invested in order, the proper cycles of seasons, the proper rituals to keep the world running correctly. Chernobog represented everything that disrupted that order. Flood, fire, plague, famine, and perhaps most interestingly, he was associated with the left-hand path. In Slavic ritual, actions performed with the left hand or in a counterclockwise direction were connected to death, the underworld, and the reversal of normal order. To invoke Chernobog was to deliberately step into that reversed world. Now here's something that might surprise you. Chernobog wasn't necessarily evil in the way we understand evil today. He wasn't opposed to humans out of malice. He was simply the embodiment of the dark half of existence, the half that is cold, hungry, dangerous, and fatal. In a pre-modern world where winter genuinely killed people, where disease had no cure, where a failed harvest meant starvation, the dark half of existence was real and immediate. Chernobog was the name they gave to that reality. To really understand Chernobog, you have to understand something about how the ancient Slavs saw the relationship between good and evil, because it's fundamentally different from the Christian framework most Americans grew up with. In Christianity, God and the devil are not equal. God is infinite, omnipotent, and ultimately wins. The devil is a fallen creature, a rebel, destined to lose. Evil exists, but it's subordinate to good. In the Slavic pagan worldview, the balance was much more equal. Chernobog and Belobog, the black god and the white god, were not in a war that one side was destined to win. They were in an eternal balance. Summer and winter, birth and death, growth and decay, you needed both. A world of pure light with no darkness would be just as broken as a world of pure darkness. The crops need the cold of winter to rest before they grow in spring. Death makes room for new life. Darkness makes the sunrise meaningful. Chernobog wasn't something to be defeated. He was something to be balanced, respected, and navigated. This is why the Slavic ritual Helmold described, where people spoke blessings and curses at the same feast, makes perfect sense within this worldview. You acknowledged both sides. You didn't pretend the dark didn't exist. You spoke to it directly, named it, and tried to maintain the balance. That is a sophisticated theological idea, arguably more honest than pretending evil doesn't exist or is simply the absence of good. Now let's talk about the Chernobog that most people actually know, the one from pop culture. In 1940, Walt Disney released Fantasia. The final segment, set to Mussorgsky's Night on Bald Mountain, features a massive demonic figure rising from a mountaintop, summoning the dead and presiding over a feast of demons and ghosts. That figure is Chernobog. He is enormous, winged, terrifying, and absolutely magnificent as a piece of animation. Disney's Chernobog has almost nothing to do with the historical evidence. He's essentially a visual combination of Satan, a European demon, and Mussorgsky's own dark imagination. But he became the defining image of Chernobog for most of the 20th century. Neil Gaiman's American Gods, both the novel and the TV series, features Chernobog as one of the old gods, struggling to survive in modern America. Gaiman's version is more nuanced than Disney's, rooted in the idea that gods are real as long as people believe in them and feed them with attention and worship. It's a genuinely interesting interpretation of what happens to ancient deities in the modern world. And then there are dozens of video games, metal albums, horror films, and fantasy novels that have used the name Chernobog as a shorthand for ultimate evil, the Slavic Dark Lord, the black god of chaos. Here's the fascinating thing though. Every time someone puts Chernobog in a movie or a game, they're doing something the ancient Slavs themselves did. They're naming the dark. They're acknowledging that darkness exists and giving it a face. The form is different. The instinct is exactly the same. When Christianity arrived in the Slavic lands, gradually from the 9th to the 12th centuries, the old gods were officially abolished. Temples were destroyed, rituals were forbidden. The Volks, the pagan priests, were hunted down. But the thing about Chernobog is that he was never really a god with a temple to destroy. He was an idea, and you cannot burn down an idea. The concept of the black god survived in a different form. In Russian and Eastern European folklore, the dark forces of existence became associated with figures like the devil, with forest spirits, with unnamed malevolent beings that brought illness and misfortune. The names changed. The underlying fear, the acknowledgement that darkness is real and powerful and must be dealt with, did not. You can hear echoes of Chernobog in the superstitions that survive across Russia, Poland, Ukraine, and the Balkans today. Don't whistle indoors. You'll invite misfortune. Don't leave your shoes upside down. It calls the dark. Don't cross paths with a black cat on the left side. The left side. Always the left. Chernobog lost his name. He never lost his territory. So what is Chernobog? He's one of the most famous gods in Slavic mythology, documented in a single paragraph by a German monk who may not have fully understood what he was watching. He's a massive presence in Western pop culture, built on that single paragraph, expanded by Disney, Gaiman, and 100 other creative minds into something enormous. And he's a genuinely profound idea, the acknowledgement that existence has a dark half, that winter is as real as summer, that death is as real as life, that you cannot understand the sunrise without having survived the night. The ancient Slavs didn't worship Chernobog because they loved darkness. They acknowledged him because they were honest. The dark half of existence is real. It has always been real. Pretending it doesn't exist doesn't make it go away. Giving it a name, the Black God, at least means you can look it in the eye. Subscribe if you want to go deeper into Slavic mythology every week. Next time we're going underground, into the realm of Veles, the god of the dead, magic, and cattle. The deity who stands at the opposite end of existence from everything Czernobog represented.